This video is going to show you how to work with importing a Fusion file for activity 135, documenting a design and working with that file, the crank arm, as well as creating a drawing for that part. So the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show my data panel. From previous videos here I had some test objects and a title block. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this test object by right clicking and deleting. We don't necessarily need that anymore. But here you can choose to upload. And I'm going to select the files from my PLTW. This was the file that was downloaded. So this was from my downloads there, and I'm going to go ahead and say open. And here, once I go through and create that, or I have that, in there, I can go ahead and say upload. Okay, it'll say status complete. I'll say close. One thing is the name of the file is going to be pretty long, which, depending on which title block you use, that may not fit in your part. So I'm actually going to go right click on it and say rename, and we're just going to call this the crank arm and hit enter. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this file. So here's our crank arm. Sometimes when you import files, it may not be in the correct orientation that you want it to be in, so you may want to do a move. You can do move, so this should be, looks like it is just a body. So here what I would do is you try to, notice there's a lot of different points here when you choose the options to move. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom in on this bottom, on this part over here. I'm going to choose the circle as our pivot point, and then I'm going to choose this grip and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. So that way that when we go to bring it into the drawing, it matches what we see in the curriculum. Sometimes that'll happen with imported parts. You'll have some different orientations, and this is how you can get this in a little bit better, kind of position. So this is actually a better front view. So we're seeing the most geometry of the part, seeing the longest dimension, and then we're also able to kind of put that into the correct orientation on our drawing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. It'll ask to do a version description. So this is going to be V1 of the crank arm as opposed to version 0. I'm going to go up here to File, and I'm going to go to New Drawing from Design. And here I can choose what title block. I'm going to browse. I'm going to choose one of my other title blocks that I had. So I ended up having, so from my IED file, I have another title blocks that I did for my students. So I think I should have a B size title block in here. We'll see. Yep, IED title block B, and I can say OK. So again, on custom title blocks, you can do a lot of different things. I got another video on how to create, how to create custom title blocks with your school logo, PLTW logo, things like that. And this is one that I use in my classroom. Okay, from here we can go through, let's bump up the scale. Let's go to 1:1 scale. That might be good enough for what we're working with right now. I know we're going to be doing a detailed view here in a second. So let me go ahead and place this. And it looks like I'm going to go ahead and just say OK. And this will place my front view. I'm going to go to projected view. Right now, looking at, kind of what drawing from the figure. Let's place an ISO view up here in the corner and say OK. And it looks like we're going to be doing some detail and a section view to make that happen. So I'm going to double click on the isometric view. Let's go ahead and shade it. And if you want to change the scale of it, you can always usually you decrease a scale for those different parts. So, and even then, I'm seeing 1:1. We may want to bump this up to a, let's see what a 2:1 option looks like. So these are some of the decisions you're going to have to make kind of with your parts. So here, I kind of like this 2:1 option. I'm going to say close, and it allows me to, so you can drag the view there. I can also double click on this, and I can actually just change. Let's put that back to a 1:1 view, and it will not affect the parent view. Okay, as far as this goes, we are, they want us to go along and do some dimensioning of this part. Like for example, they want us to dimension the overall, the overall height, width, and depth of the part. And so like here we can place some dimensions utilizing the dimension tool, but there's just some things that are going to be pretty hard. There's some intricate detailing in this part, and we're going to do something called a detail view. So up here in your panel, you have the detail view option, and all the detail views it shows an enlarged view of whatever portion of the part that we're looking for. So here I'm going to kind of click on the view that I want to set, and then I got to put a place of where I want to start the view, and it's like drawing a circle. So and then whatever shows up inside of this circle is going to be what ends up being, kind of on the drawing. So, here you just want to make sure the label and everything's kind of in view. When you click, it's then going to give you, there's what the enlarged view looks like, and there's where we can kind of place that above. And then we can go ahead and say OK. Okay, so there's detail view A, and it allows us to do that. This is where now what we can end up doing with this particular point. Something is we may want to add some center marks in for our circular features that we have as we go along. There we go. And this would be a good spot to kind of do that whereas opposed to down here, that'd be a lot of detailing. You may want to add these in for this dimension, just that way it shows you're measuring to the centers of those holes. But other than that, what you can end up doing, and I'm not going to go through all the dimensions or anything, but you could start dimensioning some of the radius and some of the diameters that show up and things like that. So if you need to change anything with a dimension, you can change the level of precision. So however many decimals you want to show, you could go through and put in some different symbols, and things like that if you need, and that's kind of something that can kind of happen there. Okay, so that's really what it comes down to, just kind of dimensioning that. You can always review to the teacher guide and the curriculum to see what all the dimensions are. And again, with your students, you may go through, this is a very intricate part to try to detail. So it may be something that you may want to go through and maybe, find a good happy medium to do this. Our last thing that we're going to do is they want us to create a section view for this part, because right now, if I do a projected view of this part, you get this kind of view where you have a lot of hidden lines, and you can't really dimension anything other than the height. So here I'm going to go ahead and delete that view, and I'm going to go ahead and run now a section view. So this is kind of tie into activity 136, but what we can end up doing here is, let's pick a good spot, right? Maybe I'll select the parent view, and then I need to set a cutting plane line. So maybe I kind of use this as a guide. I'll click, drag my line through, so you'll see, and then I'll do a second click, and here I can then right click and say continue, and then here's what will happen is it's going to pull a view here for us. And in order to show that, maybe I'll place it, and in the curriculum they show like maybe a 4:1 scale, which may be pretty appropriate for what we're trying to do here. I'm going to say OK. Here is my section. If I need to pull this label up a little bit more, I can do that, or if I need to move it downward, I can use the grip to do so. But here's now when I got a section view, I've got some object lines to where I can really go through and play, and kind of measure, and then also place dimensions in terms of this particular dimension and things like that. So this is really what we're kind of looking for, and you can zoom in here if you need to try to get a radius kind of set up and things like that. So that's really kind of the detailing. Like I said, I'm not going to go through all the dimensioning that would be, you may look for in this part, but that's kind of to go through and how to use some of the features like a detail view and a section view for parts that are really intricate and that really need, maybe an enlarged view or a cutaway view in order to start dimensioning. But these are the types of methods, and this would be one submission that we would need for activity 135. And then for the section view, you would come back to that in activity 136.